Okay, welcome back. We're talking about just the weekly routine, the flow and cadence of how the course would work. So let's go through this one more time. The midterm and the final, there's conducted obviously at home. So open book, open notes, open everything. 25 questions. You have an hour and 15 minutes. I mentioned it's going to be a separate review video to go over the topics. Take up quizzes. Those are easy. Lecture notes. Now, the point here is I don't use questions from like the author's website or anything like that. I use my lecture notes. So I'll be going through here going, oh, wait, this would be a really good question to ask. Oh, wait, here's another one. All right. So if I'm using my lecture notes to write these quiz questions, do you think maybe it'd be a good idea for you to have those very same lecture notes handy while you take the quiz? That sounds like dang good advice, huh? Might want to be paying attention. Okay, so assignment rules. I know this is going to sound silly and perhaps a little condescending, but reading comprehension is kind of important. I'll say, okay, I want you to submit the following 4 screenshots. And you go, okay, here are the 3 screenshots I asked for. And I go, no, I asked for 4. Oh, I didn't see that. So reading and following instructions is a powerful thing. I mean, quite frankly, I can't imagine any work scenario for any job you have that doesn't require you to read and follow instructions. Okay, so typically you're going to be submitting a Word document with a bunch of screenshots from VirtualBox. I'm going to show you exactly how easy that is to make those screenshots. I have what's called a standard naming convention. So when you submit documents in Canvas, I want you to name them a specific way. By the way, this is a good test on whether or not you can read and follow instructions. It's not like this is the only time you're going to see this. At the bottom of every single assignment, it's going to remind you this is the format that I want to be in. I'll be able to tell by the first assignment if you can read and follow instructions. I'll be able to tell. Here's how it goes. The naming convention is, CIS4376 space, whatever it is you're turning in, assignment 1, 2, space, your last name, dot, first name. Yeah, 2 in exactly 2 spaces. All right, we'll see. We'll see who can follow instructions, who can't. Multiple submissions are typically allowed for assignments, not quizzes. You submit a document, I scribble on it, and you can do it again, even after I've graded it. Okay, so here's kind of a generic grading rubric. 20% is, did you read and follow instructions? I know it sounds crazy, but yeah. 35% is, did you demonstrate your understanding of the materials? Could you do what we asked you to do? More important than learning is important. Being able to get it to work, okay, that's slightly less important. As long as you're learning, you're okay. I learn an awful lot by making mistakes. Okay, I'm just saying. So getting the proper results, 25%, using best practices, 15%, and then spelling, grammar, formatting. This is done in English class. I don't much care. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to submit a journal once a week. And the purpose for the journal is to see if you're watching and paying attention to the videos. I'll say that again. The purpose for the journal is to see if you're paying attention to the videos. Okay? I'm going to ask you a question, what I call a trivia question, that might not have anything to do with the topic. It could be something as simple as, what color shirt am I wearing? Okay, you can't Google that. And just to drive home this point to make sure you understand exactly what I'm saying, if I made a mistake in lecture and I said that 2 plus 2 is equal to 3, okay? I made a mistake, but I said that. And I ask you, what did I say 2 plus 2 is? If you answer 4, you got it wrong. I didn't ask you what the answer was. I asked you, what did I say the answer was? Got it? Okay, good. So typically there's 3 sections to this. A screenshot section, I'm going to say, did you install this? Show me. And then some trivia questions, typically 4 questions that talk about things that happened in the lecture. Okay. And then a survey or opinion section where I ask you, how many hours are you spending on this and how difficult is this course? And, that kind of stuff. All 3 parts are required. The journals are a significant portion of your participation score. It's about 85% of that. I got a squally cat. Maybe I should ask you that. Hey, what interrupted the video? Well, it's a cat squalling. Um, so here's what I want you to do is I want you to have a copy of the trivia questions in your hand while you're watching the videos. It would be really dumb if you go through and watch, hour, an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of videos. And then later you open up the journal and go, heck, I don't remember that. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the videos a second time. Really? Wow. That is pretty dumb. It would make a heck of a lot more sense if you actually had the trivia questions handy, perhaps print them off or whatever you feel comfortable with. Have those handy while you're watching the videos. And so when you come across one, you go, wait. I think that was question number 2. And so you can scribble a little note to yourself. Okay. That's what I intend. I do not intend for this to be, a tedious task. Okay. All right. So late policy. Everything is due at 11:59 on the date shown, typically a Sunday, except for the last day of the semester because that ends on a Friday. I usually start grading the next morning. I have a morning class, so it'd probably be, mid-afternoon, 2 or 3, and is when I'm done. There's 5 points per day if you're late, so you might turn in a perfect paper, but you were, 4 days late. Well, 4 times 5 is 20, and so the most you can make is an 80. Okay. And if you're pretty good at math, you can figure out after 20 days, you won't get any points at all. And then I mentioned you can resubmit. So you may have submitted something on Wednesday. I didn't look at it until Monday. I bring it up and I go, oops, you missed part number 4. And you go, ah! And so you resubmit it on a Monday afternoon. Well, I consider that a day late, even though you submitted it early. The second submission is one I'm talking about here. My grading history. So the purpose of this is to show you basically where I am as a professor. I'm not an easy A kind of professor where everyone, makes A's. I'm not tough as nails where everybody struggles. Typically, if I'll confess, you're going to have to discount this last F column out there. This is not people who thought, oh my goodness, the content is just too dang hard. I don't understand it. That's not what that's about. These are people who sign up for the class and then just abandon the course. And I have no choice to give them an F. The rest of it, that's a halfway decent bell curve. Most people make a B in my course. I think this is about appropriate. So I mentioned feedback. You can turn in an assignment. I'll scribble some notes on it and give it back to you. Then you can resubmit it, and again, and again, and again. I had this one student who would go through this like 4 or 5 times for every single assignment. I mean, you got to the point where there was diminishing returns for late fees, but that's okay. They were learning, and I, quite frankly, kind of admired them about this. Okay, so things to look out for. After the grading period, which, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that, I have some personal feedback that only you can see. And then I have some general feedback in a discussion forum that basically says, okay, we just finished quiz number 2, and the average score was an 85, and there was 6 A's and that kind of stuff. But in your personal feedback, particularly on assignments, I've been known to throw in what I call an Easter egg. A note inside your document that says, if you respond by midnight tonight with this code, I'm going to give you an extra 5 points on the next quiz. You think maybe I'm serious about this reading feedback thing? Yeah, I'm giving you some good advice. Hope you're paying attention. Okay, so watch your email immediately after the due date. I mean, this scenario sounds kind of implausible, but it happens. I'll sit down Monday and I'm grading your assignment 2, and I bring up your document and I'm going, what the heck is this? This looks like assignment 2 from some other course. So I have no choice but to mark it as 0 and then send a note that says, hey, this doesn't look like assignment 2 for this course. I bet you submitted the wrong file. Well, man, if you're off on a fishing trip or something, I got a cat going through here. Well, that's going to hurt, right? So watch the emails immediately after the grading period. Okay. And don't plagiarize or cheat because that'll just annoy me. Okay, so how do you read feedback? Well, there's 2 different ways. Canvas has this thing called a document viewer. And there's a section called grade feedback and a section called annotation feedback. And we're going to have to go through the difference of that. If you're submitting a Word document, then there's going to be a thing called annotation feedback. If you're submitting something else, it'll be grade feedback. Okay, so here's how it works. Grade feedback is when you open the grade book and it'll be on a note over here. And it may say something simple like, good job, something like that. Very rarely is going to be any useful information in here. Maybe a calculation like, okay, you made an 85, but you were 1 day late, so therefore you got an 80, that kind of stuff. But the actual assignment, that's where you're going to get the useful, helpful stuff. So to see that, you're going to have to click on this to be able to see the annotation feedback. You get a miniature version of your document on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side of my notes that I send to you. This is where I put the Easter egg, okay? Hidden in your document somewhere, a little note. And hopefully these notes will be, helpful. Like, wait, you forgot step number 4 in this process, or something like that. Something where you go, oh, hang on, let me go back and redo it and resubmit it. Hopefully constructive criticism. Okay, a little bit about me. Hi, I'm Emmett Gray. I'm going to be your professor. I retired from civil service at Fort Hood. I wasn't in the Army. I just worked for them. I'm a software programmer, author. I've written hundreds of applications in my day. And I have a strange educational background. I have degrees in mathematics, engineering, and computers, but don't have my PhD, so you can't call me Dr. Gray. I got a gazillion Microsoft and CompTIA certifications. So if you want to talk about, Server Plus or Security Plus or, network administration, yeah, I've probably taken those. I've been teaching at the university for about 15 years now. And I work as an adjunct professor, which means I work part-time. I have an office in Founders Hall, room 323Q. Probably won't be able to get me there, so no phone would work. But the College of Business Administration admin number is there. I prefer Canvas email over university email, but it works. And I haven't really decided, but I don't think there's going to be on-campus office hours this semester. I don't think. But I am available for virtual office hours. And if you need to meet, that'd be okay. We'll schedule something, a one-off kind of a thing. No big deal. Okay, so enough about me. So I'm going to ask you more of the journal questions. Where are you on a scale of 1 to 10 with regard to how prepared you are for this class? A 1 would be, why on earth did I sign up for this? I'm completely lost. Probably nobody. 10 would be, I've been doing network administration for 10 years now at a major corporation. I could probably teach this class with my eyes closed. Probably not too many people in there either. Most people are going to be in the 3 and 4 and 5 range. Like, yeah, I know a little bit about this. Yeah, maybe I've set up a server, maybe, or I've done some installs. I know how that works. Okay, so I mentioned that I don't really use PowerPoint much, and it's true. This might be one of the few places where we see PowerPoint. Okay, so next we're just going to go through and take a tour of the Canvas course. So let's begin. All right, so this course is practically everything you need to do to be a successful network and system administrator. So this is like prepping you for your job. It is fairly in-depth and has tons of stuff, but I do tend to stress the concepts and philosophy. This note here is basically, are you watching the video? Well, obviously you are. It's lecture heavy, online. This is the important part of this section. This course is the same in every way practical to a face-to-face. And just like a face-to-face, you have to show up, pay attention, and take notes. Well, guess what? You're going to have to do the exact same thing. You're going to have to watch the videos. You're going to have to pay attention, and you're going to have to take notes. You are going to need a Windows-based machine. All the rest of the alternatives are just not the best. I mean, quite frankly, I wish I could say otherwise, but you're really going to need a traditional Windows-based machine. Yeah. Course navigation and things to do first. Get a copy of the textbooks. Yay. Read the course syllabus. Quite frankly, we've read it and I basically covered everything there is to know. Watch the week 0 videos, which we're doing right now. And then apply for oh, that's changed. It's now Azure for Students account. Okay. So let me just go through this. Now, this is the teacher's view, so I can see an awful lot of things that you don't see. But the first one coming up is, okay, now you're going to need the install media and activation keys. I don't want you to install it in advance, but I do want you to go get this stuff. So there's a PDF instructions for Azure DevTools for Students account, and then a video. We are going to have a video on how to do this, so don't install, but please do get this account and get it working. Okay, once again, we're coming up to the 15-minute mark, and we'll continue this in part 3.